What's up, Prodcasters? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Branding Banter, your promotional products podcast, where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA.
And I'm Meg Gerber, the CXO over at Bark and Bowie.
Sarah Goshgarian, Unruh Strategic Sales Manager at Stalls. I keep stumbling over that all the time. That's okay.
Well, I'm not in the office today. That's fun.
I know you're not in the office today.
You don't have to deal with the air vent behind me and loud noises, all that good stuff.
It's funny. I couldn't hear the loud noises. So I always think we're so sensitive to like our environment because it's what we hear right around us, but I never heard anything. So
good. All right, Meg, where are you at? All I see is blinds.
I know, it's very bright. I'm at home today. I got so much going on at the store. I'm like so many little things, and
You're just so close. You're so close.
And yeah, I had a moment this morning. I wasn't even going to talk about it, but I feel like it wasn't even with the store. My daughter, Courtney, you guys know, she's postpartum 4 months now, right? So little Emerson's 4 months old. And so she sent me a picture. Everything that's going on overseas right now. It's a little scary being a mom in the military, or mom with kids in the military, but she said the United States deploys the US Nimitz aircraft. So before she got pregnant, that was actually where she was going to be stationed, was on the Nimitz. So if she didn't have her baby, she'd be leaving today, essentially, to go over there, which is like, okay, this is what you sign up for, right? But then I was in the shower, and then VJ had come into the bathroom. We were just sitting here talking about it. And I just had this flashback, and then I've been shaking all morning. So the military has changed a lot in 20 years. Used to get 6 weeks maternity leave, and then after 4 months, they can send you out to sea. Now they give you 4 months maternity leave, and then it's 2 years before they can send you out to sea. So you have all that time to bond with your baby.
Big change.
So I don't know. So yeah, the baby, like I said, is 4 months old. A couple days ago. Her first day back to work was today. So rewind back to 1999, essentially. She was 4 months old, and I had to leave her to go fly out to Bahrain. And it was like, I was 19 years old. Yeah. I have a 4-month-old baby. I mean, I was like, so like the stuff just comes out occasionally, and it's like you can't even comprehend like how that changes a person, Like I see her, she was freaking out last week about her dog got fleas and brought fleas into the house, and she's like, the baby, fleas. And I'm just like, oh, it's okay. Everything will be okay. I'm like, oh. So I've just been having a morning thinking about this because it's just changed. She's so blessed to be able to stay home. And I just think about, I don't even know why this came out. I was very upset this morning. I was like shaking, like 20 minutes later, even an hour later, I was like trying to do my hair, and I'm like, it's okay. Everything's okay.
It was like a tragic moment, like for you, right? Like, and so I think it's like a PTSD thing, right? Like
it is.
of what happens. But stories like yours is what then made the military make those changes that they did now, that she doesn't have to worry about being deployed for the next 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I think it's important that you share your story. So, but my heart goes out to you because I know how difficult, like, that
it's hard. All this is hard. It's hard. And you try to like compartmentalize it, and you do, right? Until you're just faced with like having to deal with it. And then it's like, oh, like yeah. And then DJ literally came into the bathroom like 45 minutes later when I was doing my hair, and I was like,
still, it was a moment for you, right? Like, and it's a core memory of, of raising your children. And so it's and not all of them are. Yeah. You do. It's funny. Like I talked to, I did a keynote during, Spectre & Co.'s national sales meeting. Right. And one of the things that like I talk about is how like there are a lot of things that we do just subconsciously, right? It's just part of what we do. And it's often times whenever people are like, how did you manage 5 kids? Like, how did you manage like leaving at night, you're 4-month-old at 19 years old. And it's just what we did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't a lot of times stop to actually think back at those things that become like just motions that we just do on a daily basis. But other people are like, how do you manage 5 kids, working full time, doing this, doing that? How do you add more things to your plate? And do you take time and pause to celebrate like all of that you're doing? Because a lot of people can't do that. So
Yeah, absolutely. So didn't mean to take it down that lane, but maybe it'll help us segue into our topic of being a strategic
No, it's all
business.
good. Well,
yeah.
Sarah mentioned, the Spectre and Co, and we just had Sam Cates on, and I know that that's kind of how this topic came up, right? Was they were talking about the national sales meeting that they did, and sort of we discussed the strategic business retreats articles that have come out recently from PPAI, and I think Meg, you had said ASI as well. Not sure, but ultimately, it's not something you hear of a lot, but it's incredible for team building. God knows we could use some team building and some community these days. But I remember back when I worked as a distributor, my brother-in-law's company, we did do retreats. It wasn't like an annual thing that I recall, but there were several that we did in my 5-year stint there. So always very cool to see. And then since then, the only one that I'd really ever heard of up to that point was when we had God, I'm drawing a blank now. In Tandem Promotions.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Webb. Yeah.
Sarah, we had her
So
on
we had
actually.
Sarah Webb on to talk about what they did for during COVID, because I think instead of going out to Vegas and doing the whole expo thing, they all went out together and got an Airbnb or whatever, and they did expo at home together in an Airbnb, which I thought was incredible. You know, they still had that
Custom
camaraderie
pajamas.
and the
Yeah.
team building and all that. So I think it's really cool. And then to hear, Sam talk about their retreat or their national sales meeting, I'd like to see more of that kind of stuff or hear more of the stories for sure.
For sure. I think the impact is what, is good to share from a story perspective. I know Noelle Garcia had posted recently from Boundless that their kind of executive leadership team did a retreat. And I think they're shaped in many different ways, but a lot of times you'll do like an executive, or you could do like your sales team. And then in some cases do your team all together. We had a national sales meeting at Stalls last year, and it is something that everybody talks about, but we don't bring everybody together. But it was sales and marketing specifically is who came together for this, because those two work together hand in hand. So it was beneficial, because a lot of these people for us in a larger organization, we don't see on a daily basis. And, we've all worked in, it was funny. I was talking to somebody, I think it's like 10 years, like remote. And so when you're remote and you work with people, you don't really have an opportunity to get to know who they are. Like, how do you get to know somebody over a Teams message or Slack or whatever your channel is, right? Like, that's difficult. So I like that these meetings are meant not only for information about the organization and sales and all of that, but really team bonding.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I think they are fantastic. I think it really gives a chance for leadership to spend time with everyone that's there, and so they can see that it trickles down, so they can see that people care, and helps everyone get on the same page, right? If there's a mission or a vision, it really helps align everybody so they can understand why. If it's here's our mission statement this year, you just put it out in writing, it's fine, but there's nothing behind that. Those are just words. And I think having these strategic these business meetings and kind of putting it in place, everybody has a say in it. Like, everybody can contribute to it, right? And they can talk about what they were doing well, what they were doing wrong, what they don't want to do ever again, those things with the sticky notes. I think that's so important to listen to the people that work within your company, and what a better way to do that than have these strategic these business meetings. I know we did some national sales meetings when we were at SNS, and the team building that we did. I was telling you guys before the show, we went to San Antonio. I think they're actually going back there again this year, trying to plan a girls trip around that date with my girlies. So Sarah, October, like 3rd week, if you're going to be around weekend.
Drive right down. I'm like, it's like an hour away.
Right.
At my house.
See, yeah. We'll record at your house for sure.
Yeah.
But we went to this like dude ranch. I don't know what it was, but we played like Cowboy Olympics. And at one point there was like 6 volleyball teams playing against each other on one court, but it was just fun. Right. And then they had relay races, and that's just one part of it. But the rest of it is learning and like, hey, today we're going to learn about all the new products and how we're going to go to market. And then, hey, or the next day we're having a strategic planning about how we're going to, run our business this year, or our books, and how we can do it internally. So I think it's super important. And I think every company should be doing it. And it doesn't have to be on that level. You don't have to fly your entire company to San Antonio and do these things. You could do them locally or in the next town over or somewhere. Jeff, what did you want to add? You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask if either of you have ever done the PeerNet national meeting or whatever.
I have not done PeerNets.
I haven't either, but I've heard they do a lot of, like fun games and stuff like that as part of their national sales meeting.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys, do you consider like Halos, Performas, ASBs, their national sales meetings? Do you guys consider those kind of in this bucket for strategic business retreats?
No, not from my perspective. Being on, because, well, I guess it depends on. Okay, so for me personally, no, sorry, bug bites. These monster.
You're fine. You're monster mosquitoes. Yeah.
Blood. I just got a Jesus. I'm telling you, they're like Jurassic Park bugs here. But if I look at it so when I was at Performa, right, I was there. Those national sales meeting type events maybe it is for the owners and for the network, because I'm there. We're doing, I wouldn't say planning. There's a lot of education, but and maybe helping you plan strategically. But I wouldn't say it's the kind of retreat. I think that would be something that each individual franchise would say, hey, I'm going to take my office on a retreat. We're going to do our sales planning. We're going to do, all those things. But on a national level, when we have that, it's more about recognition. It's more about, I don't know. I don't see it that way as a retreat.
It's 2 different buckets is what I hear you saying. Like one would be like your Performa team, right? And so, and only being the members of the Performa team that take owners out of it, take franchisees out of it, right? And then for this, almost for the franchisees, this probably does feel like that strategic business retreat for them that corporate is putting on for them to be able to have the opportunity to network with the other franchisees, to then hear how businesses get ideas, the education side of everything, and also have some of that bonding with the executive team, corporate team, as well as other members. Jeff?
Well, when you put it that way.
Okay.
I'm kind of torn with my answer. So I want to say yes, because there are certainly components of what I would consider a strategic business retreat. However, the fact that the bill is footed by the suppliers still kind of makes me feel like it's less of a strategic business retreat. However, there are some that do a really good job at making it more like a business retreat. Like for instance, I Promote You. I think they do a really good job. Every other year they do something different. So, let me rephrase. So every other year they do their forum, which is in Boston, which is home base for I Promote You. And they always do really fun events. There's a trade show portion of it. There's education, but there's a lot of like really interesting networking things that they do in the evenings, which is great. Offsite, and it just builds. It has that team building aspect to it. And then the off years, they do more like the EME style format. They do 4 of them a year. But anyhow, so those I would consider maybe less of. But again, it just depends on the situation. Because like I said, I brought up PeerNet earlier. I've never been there personally, so I can't speak to it from my experience. But from the stories that I've heard, they do a really good job. And I would almost want to say that is sort of more like a strategic business retreat in that sense. It's team building, but I guess it depends on what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple key like components that really make a retreat good. I think the one year when we had a keynote, and I know we've been trying to get him on our podcast, and it was that guy about the carrot, the coffee bean story. And I think we went into this not expecting a keynote, and then you had this keynote that really like completely inspired me. I was, was very like, had a wall up about this guy. And then afterward, I was like, oh my gosh, a phenomenal speaker, phenomenal story. So I think when you have that and you get people all pumped up in the beginning, I think that's probably why they do the keynotes as well during our big trade shows. I think what's super important, I know that SNS did a really good job of this, and I know Performa did as well, but those peer-led sessions, so you're learning from your peers. I think that's really important. You can kind of dive into case studies, talk about what worked, what didn't, and then doing workshops as well. So, even if it's like conversational frameworks that people use versus commodity selling, like how to, whatever it is that you have going on, whatever aligns with your vision. I think it's just good to have it at those times. So yes, I think Performa did a great job of that, but I think that's the key, right? I think having that set up to rinse and repeat throughout those makes it a very good strategic planning session. But then based on what Jeff says, it is also like a vacation because it's supplier funded for the most part.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a vacation. What is it? What does Bill
Business
do on
retreat.
promotion? Like, like masked as strategy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is it how are we classifying retreat? Is a retreat always like a strategic planning session, or is it more of a team building exercise?
Oh.
Good question. I feel like there's got to be I feel like they're two different things almost. Like I feel like there's like a team building bonding thing. Like we at Order My Gear, we did the Olympics, right? And so there was an Order My Gear Olympics, and we did that every year. And you break out into teams and you get to compete, and there's several different events. And that was so fun. But that was team bonding, right? Like I wouldn't have called that a retreat. Even though we go off site and, go to several different places, but that's a retreat. Not a retreat. Sorry, not a retreat in my mind.
There's a big umbrella of retreat / national sales meeting / $1 million club.
And then regionals. So we were talking, Jeff, I asked about like, for me, like president of PPAS, we have got strategic planning coming up in August. And so I had proposed like, let's do something offsite. And part of that is really because when you're in an environment that feels very businessy, that everyone's kind of used to, people get bored and it becomes stale. And so you want to help generate like new ideas. And so kind of putting us into a different environment, but then also like doing something that's fun and interactive so we can get to know each other more. We all work for different companies and organizations. We're all volunteering. We have life going on with kids, like just really like who you are as a person. And it takes a minute to get to know. Yes, maybe at a mixer, we see each other for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes, but you're talking to so many people. This is your core group from a board perspective. We want to make sure that we can ideate together. We can figure out what the next year to 2 years looks like and really kind of block out all the other noise that we have from a work perspective, personal perspective, and really dive in, but have a little fun too. So
I love that.
That's what we're trying to do. I know. Yeah. You had said GAP does that.
So the Georgia Promotional Products group, basically, they do their strategic planning every year as a board retreat. I went to a couple at Lake Lanier, which is a lake just north of the city, which is kind of nice. It's really nice, lake vibe. And then the last one that I went to was actually even further north, which was a little bit of a pain to get to, but I actually really enjoyed the drive because it went up through the Chattahoochee Mountains. Beautiful drive, very windy, very cool. But it's same situation. I mean, a lake retreat, where you get together, there are, there's drinks and networking, and like you said, it's outside of that stale boardroom type of situation.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, when I think about like strategic business retreats and companies and organizations, especially those who have a lot of remote people, it just gives your team an opportunity to come together, to be some camaraderie, and then to really be able to work better together as a team overall. I think that to me is like one of the goals that everyone should put into place in order to help just create connections.
Absolutely.
Probably the number one reason people leave jobs.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Or are we going to end it with that bombshell?
I think that's it.
Like Beyonce's new commercial that she's in, right? That all the mics are around.
Yeah. All right. Seriously, any closing thoughts? Or are we good?
Yeah, no, I mean, the last thing is I think, like I said, we all said how cool they are. We think they're important depending on what the retreat is. I think where they're the most important is at, business level when you have people all over the country, and you're trying to kind of bring y'all together. And then on the regional board, I think that's so important to make sure you guys can plan strategically for the year, make sure you're budgeting your money. A lot of the boards have had issues trying to get membership. So I think this is an opportunity to kind of brainstorm when you're all together in a room, but again, having fun together, getting to know each other. So I think, if you guys aren't doing that as a regional board, definitely talk about it to your team. And I think it's something that's really important.
The only thing that I'll say about that is obviously you want to make sure your finances are in order. I mean, you don't want to,
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have a healthy budget in order to be able to do something like that. Otherwise, you kind of have to, bite the bullet a little bit. Because obviously a retreat can be expensive if you're footing the bill for everybody's hotel and airfare if they're having to fly in, or meals and whatever. So I'm sure it can be, relatively expensive. So just
for sure. But I think to your point, I don't know, I remember which one, but you can do something locally, right? Like we went to one of our board members' homes and who hosted it as well. And then we had catering brought in that way. And so there's other ways to still make it feel retreat-ish without having to drive through the Chattanooga mountains.
I love it.
That is true. That is true. All right. Well, I think we've covered this one pretty well. Like I said, I mean, I still remember the episode that we had Sarah Webb on from In Tandem, and just how much I appreciated that outside of the box thinking for the experience, because obviously everybody was going through a really rough time at that point. So it just made a lot of sense, and I'm sure their team is better off for it. So, all right. With that being said, until next time, we'll see you guys. It's not playing the outro. Why is it not playing the outro?
I saw it.
Did it?